Hello everybody, I hope you're having a wonderful day. And first off, I want to apologize. It is a super windy day right now. My garage door is right there, so there's going to be some weird creaking and stuff. Bear with me. But today I actually brought out 8 knives out of my collection. I will be talking about 9 in total. The one that really got me thinking about this topic in particular is this right here. This giant beast of a freaking knife right here is the Keen 2 produced by Bestech. Now this is a very large and very beautifully built and executed knife. I've actually recently put a 17 degree 400 grit edge, and man, this thing is just sweet to use. Ergonomic, it's great. Slicing potential is pretty good. S35VN, good stuff, well heat treated by Bestech knives. But what got me thinking about this is, why wasn't this more popular? Why do some knives fail? Whether it's the brand or a certain design or designer in particular. And this is not to call out anybody specifically, but really just to, I really want to get feedback from the community. So let me know down in the comments what knives that you absolutely love, regardless of what knife tubers say. So put down in the comments right now, type up whatever you want, and I'll read it. As long as it's appropriate, I will respond. But I want to know, is there something out there that you will die on a hill for, regardless of what knife tubers say? That could be its price, where it's being manufactured, the blade steel, and overall construction, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Let me know. I want to interact with the good people in this community. So the Keen 2, this is a giant freaking knife. And I think the reason why this didn't go any further than just the first production, there are a couple different variations of it. There were 2 carbon fiber ones, a shred, and then a standard weave. This of course is the shred, and there are, I believe, 2 or 3 colorways of the G Mascus looking stuff that looks like crap, honestly. I don't like how that stuff looks, but that is just personal preference. They were a little bit more affordable, but not really enough to justify the price. This is a very expensive knife as it is, and even though it's not a popular knife, and there's nothing super special about it, it still hasn't been technically discontinued or discounted. And this was actually produced over 2 years ago, and I am barely just checking it out because where I'm working at now allows me to not really be so conscious about what I'm actually carrying, which is really fun. So that means that I can branch out and explore different designs and things like that. And this is something that I would have not been able to carry in my past working environment. And what got me thinking is, okay, well, sometimes knives that just don't do too well, it's because they're really expensive. Or, there are people that hate stuff that's made overseas in China or Taiwan or Italy. There are some things here that I would consider to be a failed product. And I know it's really harsh to say. And the one to talk about is this. Now, I love this knife, but why is this, in my opinion, a failed knife? Well, because 9 out of 10 people that do not own this knife, again, do not own this knife, will say that the reason why they don't own it is because it's too expensive. 8 out of 10 probably haven't experienced it, but the 1 out of 10 that has, it's like, yeah, it's cool, it's not for me. I can't see that this thing costs what it costs. This is a very high performing knife in my collection. I love this thing. It is a wonderful work knife. I've used it out in the yard. I've taken it to work plenty of times, doing stuff in the kitchen as well, getting it all gunked up. I've taken it apart 500,000 times at least, done polishing to the washers, and it still keeps ticking. I love using this freaking knife, and it is very easy to reverse flick with practice, of course. But the reason why I think that this is, obviously this is a popular knife, it is, but the reason why I think it failed on the overall general market is because it's too damn expensive. And Chris Reeve hasn't done anything that would be a well-received offering to the masses. Now imagine, just bear with me, if Chris Reeve decided to still continue producing this knife in the US, but they used, I don't know, they use a budget steel, right? So that lowers the cost significantly from MagnaCut, and you still have pretty good properties of other budget blade materials, and do like a G10 side. And then, I mean, this could still potentially be tie. And then the clip, I can't really see this clip costing much, but what if it was a wire clip? Just what if, right? I don't know. What would be fair for the materials I just listed? I'm thinking 200 to 240 bucks. If this was offered in the materials that I just listed, a G10 top lid, still maintaining a titanium frame side, or even a steel side. Sure, let's just go with the steel side. And then, you know, budget blade material, but still with the same quality control and everything, the good heat treatment, the budget blade material, if I didn't already mention that, I would be more than happy. I would literally chuck my wallet so freaking hard just to be able to get a hold of something like that, because it's US construction. I know the company it has incredible work, but now at around or under, just under 250, I think a lot of people would sprint towards that. But is that something that the quality control side, or the I guess the, what is it called when people they work on knives and things like that, warranty work, the people that do warranty work, will they be able to keep up with now thousands and thousands of people buying their new budget Sebenza that is still made in the US? Chances are no, they would not be able to keep up with it. And the reason why I say that is because while I personally haven't had to send my unit in for spot treatment or anything like that, I have heard of plenty of accounts where people say, yeah, it takes a couple weeks to get it back to you. Now, if somebody has maybe one or a couple knives in their collection, and this is really marketed as the ultimate tool, the best one and done knife. So what if this is really somebody's one and done knife, and now they don't have a knife for 2 weeks? That kind of sucks. So that's where I think is the shortcomings of the Chris Reeve company, the Sebenza model. I love it personally. I know a lot of people that love it. This is a plain Jane unit, but it's all I really need. This is a budget Citivia knife, and to an individual who doesn't know about knives or brands or heat treatment and stuff like that will see this, see its price tag that's under, I believe, under $100. You're getting beautifully finished M390 here. Titanium bolsters, titanium construction, a milled clip, back spacer, and shred carbon fiber scales. And then bearings, of course. So you're getting a lot for your money here, but why didn't this thing take off? Why don't a lot of things from Citivian take off? Because of their poor steel offerings and their heat treatment. Here, from a consumer standpoint, is something that just looks good, but it's not gonna perform that great. Now it is very thinly ground, and it, you know, it plays the part, but will it last that long edgewise? No, not really. Now, is this going to appeal to super crazy knife enthusiasts or a blade steel snob? No, honestly, this is gonna let you down because the blade steel is poorly heat treated. So that's why Citivian and a lot of their stuff fails, and they haven't really grown much as a company. This is a favorite, an absolute favorite on the channel. This is the Monocolor Knives Assault Team Model 1. There is a Model 2 and 3 as well. One is in a laminated carbon fiber, the other one is a golf ball pattern G10. And those are like $30, $35 knives. This one is about $40, $45, and what you get is very, very high heat treat. a 14C28N, and I say that out of experience of sharpening this because this is probably the only example of 14C28N that has chipped on me as much as it does. So that tells me that it's a higher heat treat, so it's a little bit more brittle, but I can get a pretty sick, nasty edge on this. And then full titanium construction for at least these scales. Steel hardware, bent over clip, you cannot mount it on the other side. We'll get into the lack of clip swappability in just a sec, because that's another thing that I think companies just don't put enough attention to and why some models have failed. This isn't the absolute best tolerances in fit and finish, but what you are getting here is something rather incredible. Now, this has seen a lot of modifications, and I have plenty of videos of showing what I've done to this thing and talking about it. I love it. It's a pretty sweet knife. I even have skiff bearings in here. Just imagine that. The bearings that are in here that are made in the US cost about, I don't know, a third of what the knife costs overall entirely. That's pretty crazy. But that's because I like this knife so much and I wanted to have beautiful skiff bearings in here. Now, why is Monocolla, or the main company, why are they failing? Why haven't we heard anything from them? I don't know, but they came out with one knife that did incredibly well. It was all over knife YouTube. A lot of people had a lot of good stuff to say about it. And then a month later, it was old news because things just move like that. And then they came out with a D2 G10 knife that they tried charging almost the same for, but it was D2 G10 steel liners, all steel hardware construction, and that one bombed. They didn't really do that great. And I think the company actually sent out examples to content creators, and they were just like, it's okay, but we want more of this. Please give us more of this. And Monocolla is just like, did you hear something? That's kind of how I feel like this company responded to, I guess, the community. They came out with something great. They come out with something that is clearly a lesser product than their first design, and then they just disappear. They just fall off the face of the earth. They're still producing knives or having them produced because these are still available, but they come in and out of stock. And the times of when they are out of stock are becoming longer and longer and longer, meaning that whoever the designer is or whoever's running the company, they have fallen out of interest and they just don't really care anymore. So this is something that is going to fade out, and I can't really see much growth coming out of this. So that's why I believe that Monocolla Knives is a failed company, and there are things they can do to definitely pick themselves back up, and we'll see what they do in the future. One other thing I wanted to talk about, this little dude right here. This is a heavily modded Stinger designed by Fair and Forge, produced by We Knife Co. Now this little guy in particular, for its price, the number one thing that everybody said, whether it was actual people in the community, consumers, or knife tubers, everybody said the same damn thing about this. Why Nitro V? Why that blade steel? At the time, and even now, We Knife Co. had so many other options that they could have put to this and still have charged the same. So why Nitro V? Well, there was no answer that was provided, unfortunately, by the designers or by We Knife Co. because We Knife Co. doesn't answer people, really. They just make what they make and they hope it works. If it doesn't, they discount it during the holidays and they get rid of their stock. That's how We Knife Co. operates. And they do the same thing with their budget lines, Civivi and Sencut. So it's cool when you find something that you like and then you can get a discount on it during the holidays and then, you know, gift it to a loved one that's like, hey, I love this knife, it's super, super cool. And they've discounted it because it just didn't do so well. So here, let me share my joy of this particular design with you. And I have an example of that right here. The Sencut Knives Glide Strike. This is a large folding knife in 9CR 18 MOV blade material. The blade material is not that great. There's nothing special about it. But what is super special about this knife is that you get a lot of knife, like a lot of really, really good knife for around 40, 45 bucks. And this is the kind of knife that goes on sale during the holidays. It's not technically discontinued yet, but it didn't do so well. Versus something from Civivi, this is the Vision FG. I got this during the first production, and I've been loving it ever since. It's a great knife, and since it being produced and brought out, it was super well received, and now there are a million different variations of it. But how often do you see that the Vision FG goes on discount or become like a real discount, not like freaking 5% off? Like, what the hell is 5%? That's nothing on what would be essentially a budget knife. So you're not going to see the Vision FG discontinued anytime soon. They're going to continue making more and more variations of it. But going back to the Stinger here, a lot of people complained about Nitro V and why it is at its price point. This is I believe an almost $200 knife. That's a good chunk of money for what would be a very small knife. Not a lot going on. One thing that is beautiful about Farronforge Design Works is that their stuff is ridiculously simple. And it's classy. I think their design language is very attractive, but when they go to have their stuff produced, mainly by We Knife Co., because it's being produced by We, it costs a lot. Now, let's say they had something produced by Kubey, for example. They would be able to produce something that would rival We Knife Co. For maybe half the price, realistically. Like, if you told me that Kubey made this knife, it would be right around $100. Still made in China. So, and I mean, hey, if you want Nitro V, Kubey will still do it, and it'll still be about $100 knife. So for that to be $150 or almost $200, that's a good chunk of money for what is a very small knife, but also having obvious budget blade material. And now I understand that Nitro V is a blade material that is very popular amongst custom knife makers, but that's where it ends. You're not getting custom heat treat on that Nitro V. You're getting subpar industry standard bullshit heat treat. That's what you're gonna get with We Knife Co. So next thing to talk about, this dude right here. Now, I love this knife. I think it's really cool, but why do I think it failed? So this is a CJRB Prado designed by Ray Laconico. Ray Laconico is another designer who is incredible. His design language is ridiculously simple. Some may call it bland and boring. I think it's attractive. I think it's straight up sexy. The lines that he creates, they just work. And a lot of people would agree with me. But why do I think that this knife didn't take off? Maybe because it feels really freaking cheap, because it feels really lightweight, because maybe it was just so simple and so boring that it got drowned out by so many other things during its release. And there are a lot of things that I catch where I'm like, you know what? These companies are releasing so many things. They're shooting themselves in the foot by producing so many different knives. If they just pace themselves, they can have a much longer runtime. The popularity and the fame would last a lot longer, and they can put a little bit more attention into making sure each and every design gets all the attention it deserves. So, CJRB production, artisan cutlery. There was a premium variation of this. They are no longer being made. It's actually discontinued. There was a Thai variation that had S90V, but this is clearly the budget one. They went ahead and did a button lock with contoured micarta and the AR SF2 blade material, which I have yet to try. I would love to get my hands on some of it. Just kind of copying what other people have said who have talked about it. Some people have said that it's a, I guess, artisan cutlery's version of 154 cm or CPM 154. Those two blade materials, there's nothing special about it, so I don't know why Artisan Cutlery felt the need to make something that is similar to that. So I don't think it's going to be anything special, but the AR-RPM 9, while it is a budget blade material and it typically finds its place around and mainly under the $100 price point, I think it's a good offering for what it is, because I've sharpened plenty of it. I've enjoyed plenty of it in different thicknesses behind the edge and different blade shapes and stuff like that. So I back AR-RPM 9. I think it's pretty decent for its typical price range. But I think that this was a failed knife because the company at the time released too many freaking knives that were either similar to this, and at the same time, this is so simple that there wasn't really anything special about it for it to stand out. It was offered at a good price, around between 50 and 60 bucks or something like that. Closer to 50 bucks, yeah, great. 60 bucks and past, a little too much for what it is. You do get the nested steel liners, plenty of weight relieving, but that's something that kind of messes with people, because this I would consider to be a large knife. I have large to extra large size hands, but slimmer fingers, so I typically don't have an issue with ergonomics too often. But if you're an individual who has like really thick fingers, you'd fill this out a little bit more, and even then it would still be a very comfortable knife. But the slicing performance of it, how thin it is, I did lower the tip and do a rock texture to the spine. That's just a little project that I did, and then I did a super exaggerated sharpening tool just because that's what I wanted to do. And I've also put skiff washers in here. Yeah, this whole time you probably thought that there were bearings in this thing. No, there are washers in this knife. That's how incredible this thing is actually built. It takes washers beautifully and little to no side to side. So it is very impressive to function as well as it does with washers. It comes stock, obviously, with bearings, and the bearings make it feel so unbelievably cheap and kind of gross, and that's the reason why I put washers in here, because it just didn't really feel that great. But the crossbar tension, it feels good. It's well tuned. I don't have really any complaints about this thing. The only complaint that I did have at the time was just a preference for a lower tip. I've obviously fixed that by grinding the tip down. But yeah, that's why I don't think this thing got enough time, not enough exposure. This freaking thing, everybody, the number one thing that everybody says about this knife, this is the Civivi Vexillum. It's too expensive for what it is. For a Civivi, it is too expensive. At the time that this was released, there weren't that many things going on with Sencut, and this was, at one point, the most expensive knife that Civivi made. Now, you're getting G10, steel liners, steel clips, steel hardware and pieces, and Nitro V blade material. On paper, for the materials and the ingredients for this build overall, it sounds like it's going to be a well-rounded budget pocket knife. This thing still comes in at almost, it's very close to $100, and this came out well before, I believe, the Vision FG, but obviously there was something really special about the Vision FG with the super lock, so that's why it took off like a freaking rocket the way that it did. This in particular, it's just a liner lock. There is really nothing special about its construction, but until you get it in hand, that's when you realize this is actually pretty freaking special. Now, something I do, and I don't know how many people do this as well to gauge the market, is look at who is selling what, in what condition, for what price, and why they're selling it. This is a knife, again, the Civivi Vexillum, that I don't see too often being sold on eBay or Blade Binge, for example, because I'm thinking, well, these are still selling. People do have these and people do buy these, but apparently they like them because I don't ever really see them on aftermarket sites for resale. This is a large knife. This is a very brutish freaking knife here. Again, large to extra large size hands, but this is one hell of a comfortable knife. So kind of like the same situation with the Sebenza 31 there, is that a lot of people just look at the specs, they don't actually buy it, they don't give it the chance, and they're like, I'm not gonna buy it because it's too expensive in comparison to all the other stuff that Civivi is producing. That was the very loud and clear response that I got on my content showing this off, as well as many other content creators at the time who got sent this for free to them, and they said plenty of good things about it, sure. But a lot of people in their comment section were saying, G10 steel liners, Nitro V, it's too expensive for what it is. They're not wrong, but they're also not actually going to go out and buy it. Now, I took a chance on this because it was actually discounted during the holidays. I believe I picked it up during the holidays, and I've very much enjoyed it ever since. I have reprofiled it, sharpened it many times, used it out in the yard, the kitchen, taken it to work many times, and I actually use and enjoy the damn thing. There are skiff bearings in here. I also have put thick washers, and it is a very, very enjoyable experience with thick washers because of how big the blade is. All that mass the tightness of washers absolutely is complemented by the weight and mass of the blade. So it is a very nice, buttery feeling overall and experience. I do have bearings back in here just because I like to switch things up every once in a while. This does come stock with bearings, and you can expect the action to be very similar from the factory. But again, the reason why this thing failed and why they never made a mini, why they never made any other variations, there's only 3 different colorways of this thing, but it failed because it was too expensive at the time. There wasn't anything really special about it, and that's something that a lot of people were just saying. But once you actually get it in hand, you notice the fine little details that now it makes sense. Now seeing the contouring, the diamond milling, the way that they've executed the liner lock, the flat spot underneath the clip, the execution of said clip, the oversized, very comfortable studs, and just the overall feel in hand, the quality of the jimping back here, and just how this thing actually feels fully assembled. This is a unit, an absolute unit of a slicer of a knife right here. And I genuinely enjoy it, but it's a failed design. It is. And something else from Civivi, and at one point I had plenty other knives to share with you guys, and I could have been talking about this forever. This is already a long video, so if you stuck with me to this point, thank you so much. I appreciate all your support. If you like this kind of stuff, go ahead and subscribe and turn on the notification bell for more stuff from me to check out and enjoy. Put me on the background or whatever, just to get engaging content, I suppose. Something a little bit different than what other people are doing. Now back to it. So this is the number 1 Civivi button lock. This is a true button lock because the button, you need it to deploy and it locks it, and you need to press it again to disengage. This is not on a traditional spring. It is actually on a leaf spring, which is a part of the frame itself. If you can see in there is that bar, and it adds easily 4 times more tension than a dinky, stupid little coil spring. This thing is one of the most elite variations of the button lock from Civivi, and I will die on that hill. But the reason why this was a failed product and why it's probably going to be discontinued any day now, so I'd suggest getting one if it's been sitting in your cart for whatever reason. I think it's a wonderful knife. I like it. A lot of usable blade edge right there. Very, very thinly hollow ground. Well heat treated 14C28N. This obviously has been customized with some blue polished Flytanium scales, but it comes in G10 and micarta. And the micarta and G10 that Civivi was utilizing at the time, still good quality stuff. This was originally just a full blacked out G10 version, as well as you can get a tie clip that's like 12 or 13 bucks or something like that, and this becomes an absolute unit. This is now a full T8 construction knife, and it is, in my opinion, one of the most perfect knives knives? Yes. One of the most perfect examples of a knife in my collection. The sharpening troll and the plunge grind is beautifully executed. I can sharpen this thing to hell and back, and it's just gonna keep coming back for more. I love fidgeting with it. It just sounds so great. The lockup is incredible on this. The ergonomics are wonderful, but again, this is a failed design not because of the price, not because of the materials, but because of the locking mechanism. It's just a lot of people complain saying that there's no way to fidget with it. And an individual that I don't want to say I idolize, but an individual in the community who makes a lot of incredible content, Jared Neves from Neves Knives, shout out to him, but he's probably never going to see this. He loves this knife as well, and for a lot of the same reasons I love it as much, but he also would harp on it, saying, I really wish there was another way to interact with it. And he's right. I see him do this a lot too, where he'll kind of pre-engage it and then, flick it out. And yeah, sure, but I'm just gonna do that with it. So there are still ways to have fun with it, but it is very simply made, simply constructed, but it is still an incredible working tool that is and could be had at a great price. So if this is something that's been sitting in your cart for a while and you just haven't pulled the trigger on it because so many other people say, oh, it's so boring, there's no way to really interact with it, it's just a stupid little button. Well, this is the best button at this price point. So you're going to be getting the best execution of a button lock because you don't have a stupid little spring. You have an actual, I wouldn't call it overbuilt, but a robust leaf spring, the same damn thickness as the liners itself because it is part of the liner. So I think that's really cool. That's why I love this thing. But I got a bonus knife here. This was another one that also got me thinking, and I had these ideas at the time that I did the unboxing and the final review and everything. So this isn't actually 9 knives. This is 10 knives. This is the Arcform Knives Theory. This recently became a very popular model again because Arcform went out of business. They are no longer designing and producing stuff, which is a shame because they made stuff that was really cool looking. But I think the one thing that they did to themselves, and they shot themselves in the foot, is that they charged way too much for what were very simple and boring designs. They didn't do anything really special. The designs were simple, good, right? Good. Like I love this thing. And they had the Slim Foot, then they did the Slim Foot Auto, which was, I believe, produced by ProTech. Cool, that's cool, but there's nothing really great about that. Then they had, I think, one called the Orion, and then maybe one other model, the Saber. I think they had another small Wharncliffe looking thing that was brought to the market in Ultem when Ultem was just kicking off. And I don't care for Ultem. I've had one experience in it. It feels like cheap freaking plastic. There's nothing special about it. That really is just a preference, but they were charging so much for it, as well as everything else in their lineup. It just felt like it was $60 to $100 overpriced for what it was. When this knife was first brought to the market, they were almost asking $300. No way in hell that this is anywhere worth $300. $200? Yeah, sure. I got this thing on a sale. It was brand new. I didn't get it on the aftermarket or anything, but it was heavily discounted once Arcform announced that they were going out of business and they were going to be selling off their stock little by little. And so they did like a small discount, and that's when I hopped on it. And I think I got it for around $185, $190. It was just a little bit under $200. And I actually really, really like this knife for what it is. Now, I've had to do some customization to it to make it unique and special, but this is not $300 knife construction. This doesn't deserve that price tag at all, and neither does the design. Now, it is a very, good design. There were a couple little things that I didn't care too much about it, mainly like the sharpening tool, so I decided to put one of them in myself just so I can go and sharpen confidently. But that's kind of where it ended for the things that I needed to fix on this thing. Recently, now these are, I think now, even with the carbon fiber variations, I think they've almost all sold out at this point. I'm sure the full tie ones like this have sold at this point. But they were almost, I think, 160 or 150. And that price for this build, construction, and design, just fucking run and throw your wallet, because this is a lot of knife for that great of a deal. For almost $200, sure, yeah, you can take a nice little jog and go get that deal. But for the full price of what they were asking for at first, no, dude, no, it's just way too freaking much. The reason why Arcform, in my opinion, failed is because they didn't come out with anything that was actually special, and anything that they did was just way too costly. And for a channel where I have to buy all my stuff, I had to wait for there to be some sort of discount or discontinuation of something. I didn't expect the company to actually go bankrupt or dissolve or whatever happened to them. So it's unfortunate. This is, a special piece to me because I actually took a chance once it was heavily discounted, as any, money savvy individual would. And I waited, I got it for a decent deal. If I waited longer, I would have risked never getting it to begin with. But I'm glad that I got it when I did either way. But when the super sale came around, this is such a good knife that when that super sale came around, I wanted to buy another one just to have a backup. But obviously that's financially irresponsible, which I am, but was a very bad idea at the time. So I'm happy for having this unit, but again, that's why I think that the company and the design is, a failed design, as well as everything else that they produced, because things just cost way too damn much. It was a little micro boutique vibe kind of thing going on, and the community just was not having it. So you can smell that kind of BS when new companies pop up out of nowhere. They make really simple stuff, they charge way too freaking much for it, and they're working with just random ass designers from nowhere. And anybody could design a knife, of course, but again, they weren't making anything that was really special or anything that was just like, wow, that's really cool, I would really like to get my hands on that. There was nothing that was just that captivating where I wanted to take that financial risk. That is just my perspective and opinion, but I know a lot of other people shared that same feeling as well. And it was, again, mainly with the theory where it's like, oh, that's a cool overbuilt folding knife. At the time, it was like their hard hitter of their entire line. But for almost $300 or over, that's a good chunk of money for honestly not a lot of knife. So 150 to 200. If you can find one of these on the aftermarket, and you probably will, if it's on Blade Binge, I will pull it and make a post. It'll be an affiliate link, so you'd be supporting the channel if you do see that and interact with that link and purchase it. But if you find one of these on eBay or something like that, and it's under $200 and it looks to you like it's in good condition, I'd say go for it. You're gonna have a good time with it. But for $300, no. And when you see the people that they'll make a listing and they're like, oh, discontinued, like brand new in box, $600 because it's discontinued and rare now. Don't. It's not a $600 knife. It was never even a $300 knife. Obviously, Civivi will not be doing more stuff with that because it just wasn't well received. The last thing to talk about, this right here, this is a brand new freaking offering. This is the Migron Knives Vaker, however you'd like to pronounce it. This could very well be someone's one and done absolute lightweight knife. It rivals everything that the Benchmade Bug Out, the one to beat for lightweight and utility purposes and affordability. But this is I believe a sub $45 knife. and you're getting 14C28N blade material, which in my opinion is better than S30V, which is CPM S30V, which is the stock blade material that is utilized on Benchmade. I don't care for that material. I don't like it. I've sharpened plenty of it now, and I've made up my mind that CPM S30V can go kick rocks and sit on something very sharp. I don't like that blade material because there's just nothing really special about it. But 14C28N, because it can be brought at such a low price point, it is undeniably superior in my opinion from a genuine user collector standpoint as well. Now, you would think that there are bearings in here. There are not. I've actually put Skiff thick washers in here, and it is very, very enjoyable. So this brings it even closer to competing with the king of lightweight, the Benchmade Bug Out, the one to beat. So where this thing falls is there's no way for lefties to enjoy this knife. You know how stupid you have to be to make a knife this incredible for this price point with, obviously well designed. And now you can't touch a large percentage of the market because you didn't bother putting two stupid little holes on the other side for lefties to carry it. Like, that's really bad. That is an absolute, like, oh shit. Someone should get fired. Genuinely, that is just such a huge screw up, because this is such an incredible freaking offering from Migron Knives. If you're a right-handed person, you're most likely gonna like this. This comes stocked with regular ceramic bearings, but hey, if you are actually gonna take this out into the dirt and mud or whatever, you can put thick washers in here, and it's gonna take some time to break in, of course, like any washers. But as you can see, still very, very enjoyable. No adjustments on the tension of the crossbar lock, which is another shitty thing that Migron does. Most Chinese and overseas OEMs have now implemented adjustable Omega springs, and Migron is one of the last ones that hasn't. So they really got to get on the train. There are no patents. There are no things against another Chinese company poking a couple freaking holes into the cartridge style liners of a crossbar locking mechanism. No one's gonna come after you. And I think that that's a really, really poor, lazy ass excuse for what would be a wonderful knife. And you could take it to the next level. All you've had to have done was just make a little bit of adjustability for the Omega springs and just poke two stupid little holes into the plastic freaking scales so that lefty people can enjoy this. Now, I'm a right-handed individual. I was born lefty, but so I feel for lefties, but then again, a lot of lefty people rather just carry right-handed just because they know that they are the minority, which is really unfortunate. But it's companies like this that really piss me off because they make stuff that's pretty sweet for the price, and their OEM service is incredible. I've handled plenty of things from them that is on the premium spectrum, but their budget line, man, like they miss really, really simple stuff. And I don't understand why they don't listen to the community, especially people who are actually going to use their stuff. So I know I got a little bit heated there at the end. It didn't really need to end on that negative of a note. But again, going back to this beast of a freaking knife, and just, again, for scale, like, yeah, the Keen 2 is a monster of a knife. And while I think it's sweet, people aren't going to be carrying and using this thing day to day because it's just ginormous. Now, if you live in the forest or you live in the freaking jungle or something like that, and yeah, this would be fine. But for a urban environment, you're probably going to have the cops called on you or something like that, realistically. So this whole spiel, this whole 41 minutes and something spiel came out from just me sitting here and thinking about this thing. And it gets me going, it gets the brain juices flowing. And again, I want to interact with the people in this community. If you like this kind of content, let me know. Down in the comments, like and subscribe, do the general stuff. I will be putting up a Patreon at some point in the future. So, and it'll be very, very cheap. There's going to be like a $5 and then a $10 thing with a lot of different goodies for the people that do want to support me and what I do. So things like discounts on sharpening and customization services, which I know at this point a lot of the big content creators don't do because they're just swamped with so much stuff to review. So because I have a lot more time on my hands, I can actually be a more personable, I guess, or more intimate channel. And I think that's really fun. And I think that's why a lot of people that do like me continue to enjoy my stuff. So if you did like this video and you want to see more of it, go ahead, leave a like down below and consider subscribing. And if you haven't, or if you've subscribed already, thank you so much. I appreciate all your support. And if you haven't, go ahead and consider subscribing because I have plenty more videos and content coming your guys' way. With that being said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.